Barnstable this morning, just about 10 minutes toward the top of the hour on this Tuesday morning. I'm Sarah Colvin, and joining me on the phone, I welcome our Director of Public Works, Dan Santos. Dan, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today?
Very good.
So we are going to talk a little bit about snow after all. Certainly anticipating some more coming up. Tell me a little bit about, how the operations have been going for the past week or so.
Well, we had snow event, as you know, Sunday night,
Yes.
Monday morning. And what we're hoping to do is eventually try to get some of this hard pack off the roads. And that's probably the biggest issue right now, I think, town-wide, is on the secondary roads. And the hard pack is ice, in some cases very thick ice, and we just can't remove it. So we have to wait for either warmer temperatures, sun, and we can add salt to help that out. Fortunately, over the last week, we've been able to get salt starting to come in from the company up in Chelsea that sends us the salt. We've been picking it up, but have only had a little bit. But we've gotten a lot of loads, so we've been able to put down more salt on the secondaries, which is really something we've never done. But this year we found that we need to do everything we can. So after the snow Sunday night, we plowed, and then we put down a mix of 2 to 1, which is 2 buckets of sand to 1 bucket of salt. It's the ratio we use, which is, the strongest we've ever put on the secondaries, which allows us not to use up all the salt. And so we're hoping that having that down, yesterday it was sunny, which was nice. Temperatures weren't too bad. Today, again, it's cold, but the sun's out. So, sun and traffic and salt working it in, we'll start breaking up some of that ice. And as soon as we see that it's starting to break up and there's stuff that's movable, we'll plow it. So we're out every day going around the town and looking and seeing at what point that's going to be. But, on the other hand, we have the problem of these storms just keep coming, and tonight there's more predicted weather, including snow and sleet and rain, and so it's hard to know exactly what we're going to be facing. And I guess there's another one later in the week as well. So we just keep responding and we're keeping at it. It's really been quite an event.
Yes, it's
continuing.
It certainly has, and I think we're kind of used to it by now at this point. I mean, I live on one of those secondary roads, and I'm just used to not seeing the pavement on the ground. I think it's actually kind of fun to drive around in all that ice and snow, but I can definitely see the challenge of trying to remove it. I mean, I think anyone who's tried to remove the ice from their own driveway knows how persistent it can be in clinging to the pavement or the earth or what have you. So I guess we'll just have to cross our fingers and hope for some sunny days coming up.
Yeah, and they will come. Next week looks really good, kind of the out forecast. But as you say, that ice doesn't come up. I mean, we would literally have to jackhammer the ice to be able to break it up and move it. So it's not anything you plow, and I think that's one of the most common misconceptions out there is people think we can just come plow it up, and it cannot be plowed.
Right. I think
the plow just scoots over the top of it.
Exactly, and if you were to try to kind of ram it, I think it would be damaging to the equiment
and the road.
So
I mean, the other thing, people say, well, you can grade it or pick it up with a front end loader, but a lot of these roads are private roads and they're not in good condition, and we'd be destroying the roads trying to get the ice up, and that's not a good answer either.
Indeed. So you mentioned we do have salt back in stock. I know that was I think a concern statewide several weeks ago, but looking at that salt back. But again, as you said, being conservative and using sand and salt mixture out there on the roads.
Yes. Yeah. We'll get it.
Indeed, get it done. Well, hopefully this will be the last week that we'll have the snow falling down, Dan. That's for sure. So just wanted to touch briefly. I know that there's a public meeting tonight in terms of the Osterville Bay School property. A study was done.
Yeah.
And you and I have talked about this before.
Yeah.
But I mean, in terms of looking at the future for that area, it seems like the recommendation is to just level those buildings.
Well, there's a lot of things, a lot of moving parts in something like this. At this point, the role of Public Works has been to contract for and conduct a study that looked at the buildings, the school building, the original school building, the addition to the school building, and then the community center, and try to understand what the needs of those buildings would be and what the cost would be to bring them back up to usable standard. And so we went through that exercise, and it's expensive. It's a lot of money, and we looked at different options of tear one down and renovate two, or tear two down, or tear them all down. And that was presented to the Osterville Village Association, and they have a subcommittee and a group working on this very closely with with us and with Recreation and Growth Management and the town manager. They're meeting tonight, and the group within that organization felt like, given the cost estimates for the renovation, their preference would be to tear the buildings down, start from scratch, have the location of where the buildings are, plus all the fields available to kind of master plan a scheme for the village, which ultimately would include ball fields and tennis courts and a new building at some point. Not sure where. That would be part of the process. But so tonight, that organization is having a public meeting to try to explain, that approach, and the designer that Recreation has hired to look at the fields will be there to explain options for use of the open space and what kind of things might go there. So it should be very interesting, and I think hopefully a lot of people will go and get a lot of opinions and input on not only the fields and what should go on there, but also for the buildings and whether they should be retained or in fact demolished and start from scratch. So it'll be very interesting to see what the community feels about all that.
For sure. Well, Dan, I thank you so much, as always, for joining us today on Barnstable This Morning, and we will catch up with you again next week. Have a great day.
Sounds great. Thanks. You
Thanks
too.
Thanks much. Bye-bye. Dan Santos, of course, our Director of Public Works. Definitely